Hello, I want to talk about maid. Now, maid's a nice word, isn't it? It could be a virgin girl, you know, a symbol of purity. A maid could be a servant. That's something nice to have if you can afford it. There's also this slightly saucy idea of a French maid. And now there's maid. The death cult. Medically assisted death, or to put it the Canadian way, medical assistance in death. And that was passed as a law in 2016. And as with many of these things, it had all sorts of good intentions embedded in it. It was originally intended for the terminally ill, for instance, people on the brink of dying anyway, who wanted an end to their pain and suffering and the knowledge that they're on their way out, whatever. But a few people said that it wouldn't end there, that once you're on this, it's a slippery slope. And because Canada was all new and woke and knew better, they thought, well, this could never happen. Now, MAID is being expanded, and in March there are a couple of new categories. So now the Canadian MAID is serving up death to the mentally ill who can't stand the torture that's coming from inside their own heads, and the chronically ill, so not necessarily dying in any way, just, like maybe something like, I don't know what, rheumatoid arthritis, which is on and painful. I understand that. But you see, the problem is I can understand anyone wishing not to have pain anymore, either mental or physical. The problem is that when governments, when this becomes legal, it means people of ill will can take advantage of it. For instance, you've got an old lady who's dragging out her life. She still likes reading the newspaper and watching television, but she really doesn't have much prospect of a very productive life, even though she has a prospect of several years of life left. And you could get relatives who are anxious to get their hands on her property, constantly pestering her. Well, you don't want to stick around, do you? Really? Don't you want to be put out of your misery? And this gives them the empowerment to do that. And indeed, like a selfish relative, the Canadian government is also considering this possibility. Look at this. Medically assisted deaths could save millions in healthcare spending, a report has it. New research suggests medically assisted dying could result in substantial savings across Canada's healthcare system. Well, look, when you've got people who have measles and you're taking money away from them because you're sort of dragging out your life, then you're just being selfish, aren't you? The savings exceedingly outweigh the estimated 1.5 to 14.8 million in direct costs associated with implementing medically assisted dying. I don't know what that's all about. But it's not only a matter of the money, they don't mention this here, but think of all those medical healthcare professionals who can usefully spend their time TikToking themselves, dancing the Macarena in their empty wards instead of dashing about with bedpans and crash carts. And think how much you'd save on dialysis machines alone. And just a minute, I will now interrupt myself to say I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. All the links are in the description. Also, ways you can help my channel by contributing. Buy me a coffee or the other two links below. But one of the best ways you can contribute is by sharing this video and by liking it. So please click that like button, share and subscribe. And if you're not, and if you think you're subscribed, check your subscription is still active. Right. Oh yes, and also I'm on at granniopteryx on Twitter, Gab and Parler, where I let you know when I've uploaded a new video. Okay, let's get back to this. What the Canadian Broadcasting Company says that about the savings. The takeaway point is that there may be some upfront costs associated with offering medical assisted dying to Canadians. Well, yeah, you've got to have nice clinics. Do you remember that scene from Soylent Green where, what was his name, Saul or somebody, you know, Edward G. Robinson goes to off himself, and he's treated to wonderful views of what the world was like before it became overpopulated. So, you know, he had a nice going out. But you see what happened to Charlton Heston, whatever the character was called, when he was losing Saul or Edward G. Robinson anyway. So I, in principle, have no objection to suicide. I don't think it's a terrible crime. I also, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me here, have no objection to early abortion. But what bothers me about both of those things is the effect it has on the people who are doing the deed. You see, this is the point. When it's just about me, you can do almost anything, because anything that makes you comfortable or me comfortable and the rest of the world doesn't matter, then that's good. You know, the greatest good for my existence. But what about the effect it has on the other people? And I keep talking about Harry and Meghan. I'm pronouncing her name that way deliberately, you know. I keep talking about them because they fascinate me, and they fascinate me because they are using therapy, at least Harry is, using therapy to what he sees as healing himself, but he doesn't mind throwing everyone else under the bus in order to achieve that end. That's a complete me, self-centered person. That's why I said he doesn't appear to have progressed psychologically after the age of 12, because that's a very 12-year-old attitude to life. And it seems like a lot of woke people do have that attitude. There seems to be a sort of mass arrested development going on here. But back to MAID, which is another example of this. I mean, Trudeau also has this sort of 12-year-old attitude to life and politics, doesn't he? The takeaway point is that there may be some upfront costs associated with offering medically assisted dying to Canadians, but there may also be a reduction in spending elsewhere in the system, and therefore offering medical assistance in dying to Canadians will not cost the health system anything extra. And the feeling is that it'll probably save a lot of money as well. And when you have to worry about the money you can save for yourself by throwing everybody else into the rubbish heap, well, yeah, obviously there's no contest there. I'm just wondering whether the way Canadian society is going right now, that I won't see people lobbying for euthanasia for the unbearable pain of having to live in woke Canada. Mind you, that might work for everyone else. After all, as the recent World Economic Forum has it, they're talking about 5-minute cities, and you're going to be stuck in your room. Hang on, the machine stops. It'll end up there, won't it? And yeah, that really worked out well in the story, didn't it? Yeah, I'm getting distracted. Okay, we are going to start feeling that life is just not worth living, and then, of course, the expense of staying alive will be one of the things we'll be factoring into how we continue our lives. Right, well, yeah, that's it. Till next time, if there is one. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.